What's up everyone, it's Nick from Splice, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a lo-fi piano sound using Ableton stock plugins, the grand piano, and a few Ableton effects. So let's hear the example of what we're going to make. So now to build this from scratch, let's get started by adding a new MIDI track using Shift-Command-T. And I'm going to use Command F and type in grand piano. If you can't find it, like I have a bunch of freezes here, just go to Instruments. It's under Instrument Rack, Piano and Keys, and it should be simply called grand piano. Once we've added the grand piano, let's now Option drag the MIDI pattern to this new grand piano. The first effect we're going to use is Redux. So let's hit Command F, type in Redux, and drag that onto the grand piano. So the Redux does two things. It reduces the bit depth, which is this bit reduction, and then remember that's the amplitude of the sample, so that's kind of like the volume, the dynamic information. Let's just hear how that would sound. We're not really going to use that, but we're going to use the down sample, and this is actually taking the sample rate and reducing it. And if we do this down sample, we're actually going to go, say, to every other. So now every two samples are captured. Let's hear how that sounds. And when we get to higher values, you're hearing all that distortion or that grime is kind of the loss of frequency information. So actually we're going to go to the soft mode. And now we're going to hold Shift, select both of these, hit Command G, and turn this into a rack. That way we can map these to macros. Macros, again, are shortcuts for these parameters. And that's kind of one parameter I definitely want to use. So I'm going to right-click, map to macro 1, and we're going to call this, if you hit Command R, you can rename it Redux. And simply right-click to change the color. So I'm going to do yellow. The other thing is we don't want this going the full range. That's too intense. So if you hit this map button, you're going to get your macro mappings values, and you can actually change the minimum and maximum value for each macro. So instead of going to 20, I actually just want to go maybe to 4. And that means as I get to the top here, it's going to max out at 4.12. So let's hear that. Yeah, that sounds like a good range that I can adjust. So the next effect we're going to use is the frequency shifter. I'm just going to hit Command F, type in frequency, and it should be at the top. And what this is going to do is, by default, going to shift the frequency by a given amount of hertz. So this would be 80 hertz lower. What we actually want to do is use the LFO to modulate the frequency just a slight amount to give a wavering to the pitch, to give that sense to maybe an old recording. So let's take the amount up. And you can see that's already too much. The rate we don't want too fast. Actually, the 0.5 or lower is actually good. If it gets too fast, okay, that's probably a good rate, around 0.17, 0.18. And I'm going to take the amount lower now. And let's map this to its own macro. So map to macro 2. We're going to say LFO amount. We're going to call this the wobble. And again, do the mapping. And we want the minimum value still 0 is good, but let's just do maybe around 100. Yeah, there's a slight wavering that's kind of nice. The next thing let's do is Command F. Let's type in vinyl. And vinyl distortion is a really useful audio effect, especially when trying to get something to sound old or retro, and definitely lo-fi will fit that into that. Let's take the tracing model, and that's going to be probably around 6,000 to 7,000, and the amplitude up a little bit. The pinch, if you take the amplitude up, is really going to drive the distortion. So let's listen to that, and that's what we're going to map to macro. So let's actually take this value, the amplitude of the pinch, and map it to macro 3. We're going to call this the vinyl distortion. Actually, let's pick a different color. And let's also take the crackle volume up a little bit and map this to macro 4. So we're going to change color. Crackle volume is fine. And I can actually just leave that. The pinch top distortion, probably, let's max it out around 0.65. That's good. So let's take now the chorus. I think that's the next effect I use. And this will just kind of give another kind of wavering to the sound. Chorus is 2 time-based delays that are added to the sound. Like, that's too much. So let's take the time a little shorter. And there's a sweet spot probably around the lower left quadrant here. And I'm going to actually take the dry wet and map that to macro 5. We're going to call this chorus. Right click to change the color. Lastly, let's get a little reverb. So Command F, type in reverb, and put that at the end of the train. And what we want to do is maybe take the decay time up a little bit. I like putting the low cut on and kind of boosting, using this input processing and boosting the mid-high frequencies. And let's map the dry wet of the reverb and call this reverb. Let's see here. Of course, it should be blue. Yeah, this is a nice effect rack we have here. Let's just save this whole rack as Lo-Fi Piano 1. And that way we can recall this rack when we're doing a new project. We can Command F, type in Lo-Fi Piano, and then we'll have this to work with. We didn't even really adjust any of the grand piano macros, so let's actually do that right now. Yeah, that's a nicer spot. So now let's go over the actual chord progression, and the melody I kind of came up with is all based in C minor, and on the melody, the C minor blues scale. So let's take a look at that. The first chord is actually an A flat major 7th, and that's A flat, C, E flat, and G all on the left hand. That's the 6th chord, because we're in C minor, which is, the scale is C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. That's our scale, which is kind of what we're working with. And in the right hand, we're going to do E flat and F, do a grace note up, and down to C. So that's kind of the first part of that. And then you're going to go down the minor pentatonic scale, which the pentatonic scale is C, E flat, F, G, B flat, C. That's kind of the notes we're using here. So the first part is the A flat major 7th and this grace note. And then, so that's pretty straightforward. That's G, F, E flat, C, E flat, F. So we're going to do, and this is now, we're going down to G, B flat, D, and F. So that's the 5 chord, minor. It's a minor 7th chord. And it's the same thing. But we're going to change up right there. So from the beginning. So right there, we're going to jump up to B flat and come down the minor blues scale. So That's B flat, G, there's a F sharp, which is the blues part, F, E flat, and C. And when we hit that F, it's fun to play this passing chord. It's like a flat 5, it's diminished. And then again, the grace note, that's the kind of theme of this, and then an F minor. F, A flat, C, and E flat. So let's do that from the beginning. And then this is where we go to the F sharp. And that's just down the blues scale again. So F sharp, F, E flat, C, B flat, G. So on the F. That's the resolution part. So that's a C and a D kind of grace note. And while you do that C and D grace note, you're playing a minor ninth chord, C minor ninth. All of these chords are in root position. To make it a little easier, you could definitely try inversions, but that's C, E flat, G, B flat, and D. So, and then a little pick up at the end, G, G, G. So that's like three G's, 2 B flats, and 1 C. I like that kind of reduction rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So one more time with the beat, it should sound like this. Cool, so those were some tips and tricks to make a lo-fi piano sound, both on the sound design end and music theory. Stay tuned for more sound design type videos, and as always, thanks for watching. Until next time.